In today's episode, we have Jose Hernandez, a first generation Mexican American farm worker that became an astronaut. We will be talking about overcoming 11 NASA rejections, imposter syndrome, how someone from a humble beginning can dream big, and what he is doing now. So stay tuned. Hi, everyone. I'm Arnold Morales, and this is Nontraditional, a podcast about succeeding in college and overcoming obstacles that non-traditional students face. Together, we will interview recruiters, scholarship committees, and successful graduates. I will also share personal stories, tips, and how-tos just for you. So stay tuned. Growing up, Jose traveled between Mexico and California with his family for the crop season. He went on to get a bachelor's in electrical engineering at the University of the Pacific as a first-generation low-income student, as many of you, and a master's in electrical engineering from the University of California, Santa Barbara. He co-developed the first full-field digital mammography imaging system at Lawrence Liverpool National Laboratory. He later became a NASA astronaut, and in August of 2009, sent the first tweet in Spanish from space. Thank you for being on today's episode of Non-Traditional College Success, Jose.
Thank you very much, Arnold. A pleasure being here at the program, and a big shout out to everybody who's listening to us.
Definitely. I know everybody's really excited. I received several emails about, hey, this is the questions you should ask him. This is what we want to know. So definitely, I'm super excited. So let's jump right into it. First question. At 12 years old, Jose didn't speak English and worked picking fruits and vegetables with his family. You saw the Apollo 17 mission and you decided you wanted to be an astronaut. What are some tips for someone from a humble beginning to believe in themselves, dream big, and fight for those goals?
Well, I think the best piece of advice I can give you is the advice my own father gave me. My father, who only has a third grade elementary school education, was wise enough to do two things when I told him of my newfound dream of wanting to become an astronaut. He's a migrant farm worker, but he was wise enough to do these two things. First, he empowered me to believe that I could achieve it. He didn't minimize the dream. He actually fed the dream and believed in me. And that's amazing what empowerment can do to an individual, because as a 10-year-old, if your father says you can do something, you believe it. And so I was empowered immediately into believing I can achieve this dream of becoming an astronaut. The second thing he did, equally as important, was he confided with me a 5-ingredient recipe that he told me, if you really want to do this, he says, follow these 5 simple steps. He said, primero, number 1, he said, determine what you want to be in life. Number 2, recognize how far you are from your goal. Number 3, draw yourself a roadmap to your destination, because you have to know the way to get there. Number 4, prepare yourself according to your challenge. In my case, he says, you're going to have to go to college and then some. And fifth and final, he pointed outside and he says, you know the effort you put out working, picking fruits and vegetables along your side, your siblings, your mom and dad, Saturdays and Sundays during the school year and 7 days a week during the summer. You know that effort you put out? I said, yes. He pointed to my books on the kitchen table and he said, put that effort here. And when you get a job after college, you put it in your job. Always give more than what people expect out of you. Always give more. And then I added 6th ingredient, Arnold, and that 6th ingredient is perseverance, is never giving up. Because as you alluded to in the intro, NASA rejected me 11 times. It wasn't until the 12th time that I was invited to be part of the 19th class of astronauts. So you have to not give up on yourselves. You got to believe in yourself. And you have to keep preparing yourself. After each failure, you come back stronger because you're preparing yourself even more for your next attempt. And that's what I did.
I love that. Those 5 steps plus your sixth one. They're incredible. I do want to tell you that on behalf of everybody listening, it's very inspirational to see your story. It's very inspirational to see people that look like us, Hispanics, in positions like yours. I know when I was a student, I went to GMIS conference and I started to see all these engineers like winning awards and working at these huge companies that I was like, wow, if they can make it, I can make it too. So I was able to overcome rejections. My dad believed in me, kind of like yours, and I got now I work for my dream company, the biggest aerospace company in the world, designing airplanes. So I've never would have imagined that from my life coming from immigrant family as well. So that's incredible. I love it. And you talked about the NASA 11 rejections. Wow. How does someone overcome these rejections? How do you why not just give up after like the sixth or seventh try?
Well, that's a good question, Arnold. But the I always tell people you have to have a plan B in life. In case plan A doesn't work out, you have to have a plan B. And I especially tell this to kids that aspire to be basketball players, aspire to be football players, soccer players, because let's face it, if they're not actively uh, preparing themselves for life after sports, they're gonna more than likely, very few people make it to the pro level, and so they're gonna end up past their prime and not having an education or skill set that's gonna pay them a decent paying job, living, so they can earn a living. And so this is why I always tell kids, I said, fine, aspire to be a basketball player, but you know what? Make sure you go to college and you graduate college and you major in something where you're going to be able to get a job. And that's what I tell the kids is your plan B. In my case, my plan B was built in because I wanted to be an astronaut. Well, to be an astronaut, that motivated me to get my undergraduate degree in engineering. It motivated me to get my graduate degree. It motivated me to work at a world premier research facility like Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. It motivated me to become a pilot, a scuba diver, learn a third language, Russian, Yapanamaya, Paruski, Yazi, and it did all these things. And everything I was doing to prepare to be an astronaut was helping me in my career as an engineer scientist at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. And so I always, sure, rejection, you get disappointed by being rejected. Sure, you don't like rejections. Sure, it feels bad. But I would always console myself and I would say, what's the worst that can happen if I don't get selected? Man, I have a great career at Lawrence Livermore National Lab, not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah.
So that's why it kept me going because whatever it was I was doing to prepare myself was helping me in my actual career. And so that's what gave me the patience to keep moving forward.
That is really interesting. It's kind of like that saying, like, don't be comfortable even though you have that good job or something. Always strive for bigger, and that's what you did. You kept on striving even though you had a comfortable job and everything. I really like that's amazing. So a lot of my followers are Hispanic engineers in the aerospace industry, and I know that off experience and everything, a lot of us have imposter syndrome, or a lot of the times there's not too many people that look like us or talk Spanish or something like that. How do you overcome imposter syndrome? And I imagine you felt with this a lot.
Yes, I mean that's a very very good subject that I think a lot of us feel, especially as you're starting out. You've got this um, start questioning yourself whether you belong or not. And one of the things I always tell folks, I said, hey, when you get there, you're the subject matter expert of yourself. You knew what it took to get there. I mean, no one took the finals for you in your courses for you to graduate and get this job. You did it on your own merit, and the fact that you got hired, they believe that you have the skill set to do it. And so I always tell people to avoid the imposter syndrome by convincing yourself of, do a little road trip of what it took for you to get there and say, hey, I did it. I'm here because I earned the seat on the table. They're not going to invite you if you're not qualified. So don't give the impression that you don't belong there, because when you project lack of confidence of the fact that I may not be here, or 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 sort of caveat a comment by saying, well, I'm just a new guy, but this is what I think. Don't do that. Is speak with authority and speak with what you're talking, that you know what you're talking about, especially if you're there for a while and you're working on a certain problem and you're the subject matter expert. No one can know more than what you know about a problem that you're working on. So don't lack, don't be afraid to speak up and say, this is what I think based on what I've done. And so make sure you overcome these type of fears, because believe me, if you're afraid or if you're doubting yourself, you project that, and that's not good. You got to believe in yourself. You got to be self-assured and say, hey, I belong here. This is why I belong. And keep moving forward. I'm not saying be arrogant, but be confident.
For people that have problems with confidence, what do you recommend to do? Like, what have you done to improve your confidence to just get better at things?
Well, one of the things I always try and do is never be afraid to talk in front of people, and I always uh, you know have improved my communication skills by participating in extracurricular activities, perhaps not related to my career. The prime example is, I've participated in the Mexican American Engineers and Scientists Society, MAIAS, Latinos in Science and Engineering. And I formed a professional chapter in Northern California. I became a board member. I became national president, and all these things force you to talk in front of people, talk in front of kids, talk in front of university students, talk in front of professionals during banquets, and you develop your communication skills, and you become more confident of yourself, so that when it's time to make that presentation in front of your peers, you're not afraid. You're not worried about that. You're just focused on what you're going to present.
That's some great advice. And then, so a lot of our audience is on CHEP and GMIS and Maya, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what everybody wants to know about space. What was your biggest takeaway from being in space? What were those things that you said, wow?
Well, I think seeing the planet from a perspective, less than 600 people have had that privilege to do so from the outside, and just looking at North America for the first time, that was my first view, and looking at Canada, the U.S. and Mexico, and not knowing where one ended and the other started, and realizing the aha moment I had was that uh, borders are human-made concepts designed to separate us. And how sad, because from my view, up in space, we're all just one. And so that was a big aha moment that I had to me, that I said, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah, and I obviously did a whole bunch of research on you before we met, and I saw that a couple people weren't too happy that you talked about that. Um, how do you like? What gives you the, I'll just say the balls to go for something that you really believe in and just talk about it so openly, knowing that you might, some people that are above you might not like it.
Yeah, there's always going to be people that are going to try to politicize it to their advantage. I know when I got home, there was a couple of headlines in Los Angeles and in New York that said, Mexican American astronaut advocates no borders, so that everybody can run amok. Obviously, that's not what I was saying. All I said was that the concept needs to be looked at, because of the fact that we're just one from my perspective, we're one from space. We're humankind, we're the human race. It's not I'm an American human and Canadian human and Mexican. The human race is just one, and that's what the point I was trying to make is that it'd be nice if our world leaders would get that same aha moment, give them the privilege of getting that same aha moment. And I'll assure you, Arnold, that the um, the world will be a much better place today if indeed our world leaders would have that same moment of reflection I had.
That's great. I admire you a lot for doing that. So what is Jose doing now? What is Jose up to now?
Well, I have a consulting firm in Northern California, in Stockton, California, and I've worked with your company. We've bought with Mexico. The Secretaría de Comunicación y Transportes bought 3 communication satellites from Boeing, and I helped them do the acceptance testing in terms of making sure that the operation requirements translated correctly to design requirements, and did the testing. I helped them launch the 3 satellites into space. We launched one from French Guiana using an Ariane 5 rocket from Europe. The second one we launched using a Proton rocket in Kazakhstan. And the third one was a good old American Atlas 5 rocket where we launched it in Florida from the Cape. And so I do that type of consulting. I help a university built the first CubeSat designed by the students there and operated in space because I got NASA to launch it for free. So it became the first university in Mexico to build this, to design, build, and operate their own satellite. So it's those type of jobs that activities that I work on in my company. But I also, I came full circle because I came back home where I was born and raised in Stockton, and I have a vineyard, so I'm a farmer. There's no greater satisfaction than to be working with my father, who's 84 but still strong, drives a tractor, and helps me run my vineyard. And this year we're pretty excited because I'm coming out with my own brand of wine called Tierra Luna Cellars. And we're going to be selling 2 varieties of red wine and a white wine, a Sauvignon Blanc. So folks can actually go right now to tierralunacellars.com and see and pre-order because we bottle next week, and we should be able to ship in May all our orders that we've been accepting. We're making a limited edition, so that's why I opened it up. I said, hey, whoever really wants it can order it now to assure that they're going to get this year's, the very first year that we produce our wine.
That's awesome. And by the way, I already pre-ordered 4 of them, I think. So
All right.
I'm really excited to get them.
Great. Thank you, Arnold. Yeah, we're pretty excited about it, and they're going to be shipped the first week of May. I guarantee it.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to take some pictures and post it on LinkedIn and everything. Go crazy with it. So I've also seen around. I also bought your book. So you have a book. You have a child's book. Can you talk about more of what the books are, where people can find them, and also I've heard about a movie rumor. I've heard several things. Jose's just doing a lot of content.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay busy. I've written 3 books. First one's called Reaching for the Stars. Self-penned autobiography. Very proud that I wrote it myself. The second one that I wrote myself is from Farmworker to Astronaut. The first one I talked about my life ever since I could remember as a kid. It's about second grade on, and all the way to getting selected as an astronaut. The second book, from Farmworker to Astronaut, I start off, we're about to launch into space. I take the reader on a 14-day journey to the International Space Station, but I also have flashbacks of what got me there. So it's a great middle reader book, a great read. And then the third one you alluded to is The Boy Who Touched the Stars, is a bilingual children's illustrated book that can be read during bedtime for kids. So we're pretty excited. I just finished writing a 4th book, which is called Soaring to New Heights, Reaching Your Maximum Potential. Kind of like a Tony Robbins type of self-help book. So maybe I'll become the Mexican Tony Robbins kind of thing. But pretty excited about that. And we're also very excited because of the fact that Netflix approached us and asked if they can do a full feature film based on my life. And so we're very excited about that. The project, they selected a director. We're on the 3rd iteration of of the script, so I'm pretty happy with it. And filming starts the end of summer, this summer, and it's probably going to drop into the Netflix library in sometime late 2022 is what they tell
That's awesome. I'm like smiling. I feel so excited about it, and I'm not even though it's not about my life. So I imagine how excited and how amazing you feel about that. I will tell everyone out there, make sure you look up Jose Hernandez direct site for buying his books because he does have some signed versions that I actually got some signed versions. I got one for my daughter, I got one for myself, and I've even seen like some places in Amazon where they're very similar price. So like it's a couple more bucks and you can get a signed one directly from
me.
them. So make
Exactly.
sure you look at that.
Yeah, exactly. The website for that is my business website, tierralunaengineering.com. That's where you can get, if you go to the store there, you can order the books. And I'll be happy. There's a section there where you can put what dedication you want. I won't only sign it, but I'll write whatever you want me to write to the individual and then sign it and send it along its way. So I'm more than happy to do that. And then, of course, the wine is tierralunacellars.com. Different website because it's alcohol, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
have the books and alcohol in the same website. So that's why I kind of separated them. But yeah,
Yeah.
we're pretty excited about that.
Definitely. And I will have the description and the links on the description of this episode. So wherever you're listening to it, you can go into the description and see those links. I didn't know about that you can write on the book. So what I'm gonna do is the first person that reach out to me on LinkedIn and tells me, Arnold, I want that book that you have signed by Jose, I'll send you my version and I'll buy another one and get something for me. So reach out to
Absolutely.
me. I'll send you that version that I have and I'll get one from Jose also. That's awesome. Jose, I know we're starting to run out of time. Oh, actually, another thing I did want to talk about is make sure you order those things and pre-order pretty soon because once Jose hits Netflix, that's gonna be out of stock. I'm telling you, it's gonna
Yeah.
be out of stock. It's gonna be one of those things like Shark Tank where you go to it, then they don't have nothing you can buy. So make sure you buy it early. Make sure you get that. So later on, you already have it and you're not out of stock and waiting for months.
Yeah, we're expecting things to go out of stock pretty quickly. So it's best to get it now. And then when it does drop, you could say, yeah, I already have it. It's right here, kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And Jose, my last question is more of a personal question, and I'm gonna try to ask it pretty softly so my wife doesn't hear me because she does not like this idea at all. But Jose, what are so I know there's these requirements on NASA how to become an astronaut, but then there's also all the unwritten rules of all the extra things you need to do. What are some of those extra things that you recommend any of the engineers that listen to this that want to become astronauts?
Well, there's two ways of becoming an astronaut. One of them is you can go through the military, become a pilot, go to test pilot school, TPS, and all that, and be a Top Gun, and you can get selected through the military. About half the individuals go through that route. The other half are civilians like myself. And nowadays, you need a lot of education. PhD is pretty much not required, but requested. Right now, a master's is required, minimum a master's, but preferably a PhD. And then you prepare yourself with respect to you see what astronauts do in training. They fly jets, so you should become a pilot, at very least a private pilot, small Cessna plane pilot, but VFR, visual flight rules, and IFR, instrument flight rules. You should become, we practice spacewalks in an underwater in a pool with a suit on. So you should become a certified scuba diver because that's what they look for. And then we work with international partners. So it's good that you know English and maybe Spanish, but you got to look at who our partners are. Well, one of our main partners is Russia. So it's good to learn Russian, or you can learn Japanese, because we also work with the Japanese or the Germans. I think any of those languages that you learn will also make you a more rounded candidate. So it's those type of things you should be doing extracurricular, and then get involved in jobs that are related to space in the aerospace industry. Don't go off and work making computers and then expect to be selected as an astronaut because they probably say, well, that's not relevant. But if you're working for Boeing in the aerospace department, maybe they'll take a look at you a lot better than working for IBM in developing computer software kind of thing. It's those type. Just make sure your job is relevant to that gets you closer to your goal. That's what I would do. But that's what I ended up doing. I learned the hard way, which is why I had 12, 11 rejections, and I had to get apply 12 times to finally get selected. But I try to pass on this corporate knowledge to others so that hopefully they don't get rejected 11 times like I did.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm asking for a friend in case my wife's listening. She's in the other room.
Yeah.
I'm asking for a friend. Which scuba certification did you get? Which level?
Oh, there's Nowie and Patty are the two,
Patty, the one that I've looked into.
two entities. But you got your regular scuba diver certification. I got advanced certification. I got scuba rescue, and then I got master certified.
Okay.
So I had 4 certifications. I wanted to make sure NASA knew I knew how to scuba dive.
Yeah, definitely. And those are 2 things that I'm actually working on: private pilots and scuba diving.
Yeah.
It's just a coincidence. by the way. Jose, thank you so much, Jose. Any last thing you want to say before we close this out?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate the folks that are listening to the non-traditional college success program that you have here. I think you're doing a great job, and we've got to get more of our folks involved in STEM careers. And so, don't be afraid of the math and science, man. It's not rocket science, but you can get into rocket science if you're good in STEM, but it's not rocket science unless you want it to be. So don't be afraid of it. And you too can be a rocket scientist. You too can be an astronaut. Don't let anyone tell you you can't, because you can if you're willing to put the work and the effort forward.
All right. Thank you so much for being in today's episode, Jose.
All right. Thank you, Arnold. Take care, man.
Thank you for listening to this episode from Nontraditional. We will have new episodes every Wednesday, so make sure you subscribe. Thank you.